modern world depends on movement. Every day, giant cargo ships carry oil, gas, food, electronics, and raw materials across the oceans. Most people never notice them, but without these ships, modern life quickly falls apart. And right now, one of the world's most important shipping routes is under pressure. It is called the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway between Iran and Oman that carries nearly 20% of the world's oil supply. At its narrowest point, it is only 21 miles wide. Yet this tiny gap helps power the global economy. If it gets blocked or attacked, fuel prices could surge, shipping costs could explode, factories could slow down, and food could become more expensive worldwide. Because this is not just a military crisis. This is logistics hell. The most important shipping shortcut on Earth. The Strait of Hormuz connects the Persian Gulf to the Arabian Sea. That sounds simple. But economically, it is one of the most valuable waterways on the planet. Countries like Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates export massive amounts of oil and gas through this route every day. Around 20 million barrels of oil pass through the strait daily, equal to roughly 1/5 of global petroleum consumption. Think about that for a second. 1 out of every 5 barrels of oil used around the world depends on ships safely crossing this tiny corridor. And it is not only oil. Around 1/5 of global LNG trade also passes through Hormuz, making it critical for electricity production in many countries. Many Asian economies are heavily dependent on these shipments. China, India, Japan, and South Korea receive enormous amounts of energy through this route. Even global fertilizer exports depend on it, and that matters more than most people realize, because fertilizer helps grow the food that feeds billions of people. If fertilizer shipment slows down, farming costs rise. And when farming costs rise, food prices usually follow. That means a blockade in Hormuz could eventually affect supermarkets, restaurants, farms, airlines, factories, and ordinary families almost everywhere. Why it is called a choke point. Military strategists and shipping experts use the word choke point for places like Hormuz. A choke point is a narrow route where traffic is forced into a small space. And small spaces are dangerous during conflicts because ships cannot simply spread out across the ocean. They become predictable, slow, easy to monitor, easy to threaten, and potentially easy to attack. The Strait of Hormuz has shipping lanes that are extremely narrow compared to the amount of traffic moving through them. Some of the largest oil tankers in the world must pass through carefully controlled lanes every day. Now imagine what happens if even a few ships are damaged. Insurance prices skyrocket. Shipping companies panic. Captains refuse to enter the area. Cargo gets delayed, ports become congested, and suddenly the global supply chain starts freezing up. That is why even the fear of disruption can shake world markets. Oil prices often rise immediately whenever tensions increase around Hormuz, because traders know one simple fact. If Hormuz stops moving, the world starts hurting. The nightmare scenario. Now imagine the worst-case situation. A full blockade, mines in the water, missile attacks, drone strikes, ships refusing to enter the strait, military forces trying to escort tankers through dangerous waters. This is where logistics turns into chaos. Because modern supply chains are built for speed and efficiency, not long-term disruption. Most countries do not store unlimited amounts of oil. Factories rely on regular deliveries. Power plants depend on fuel arriving on time. Airlines need constant access to jet fuel, and shipping companies operate on tight schedules. When the flow breaks, everything behind it starts backing up. Thousands of ships can become stranded. Ports become overloaded. Storage facilities fill up, and rerouting cargo becomes incredibly expensive. Recent reports showed how quickly disruption in Hormuz could trap ships and create massive delays across global shipping networks. And unlike some other trade routes, Hormuz has very limited alternatives. There are pipelines that bypass parts of the strait, especially in Saudi Arabia and the UAE, but they cannot replace the full volume moving through the waterway. That means even partial disruption could create serious shortages. The energy shock. The first thing most people would notice is fuel prices. Gasoline prices would likely surge. Jet fuel prices could rise sharply. Shipping fuel becomes more expensive, and higher energy costs spread through the entire economy. Because energy affects almost everything. Trucks delivering food, factories producing products, cargo ships moving containers, farm equipment harvesting crops. Even internet infrastructure and data centers require huge amounts of electricity. When oil prices rise rapidly, businesses often pass those costs directly to consumers. That means higher prices for everyday goods. And history shows energy shocks can damage economies very quickly. Experts have compared the potential impact of a Hormuz disruption to the oil crises of the 1970s. Some analysts warn prices could remain extremely high if disruption continues for weeks or months. And poorer countries would likely suffer the most, because many developing nations already struggle with food inflation and energy costs. A major shipping crisis could push millions more people into economic hardship. The hidden food crisis: most people hear oil blockade and think only about gasoline. But the real danger goes much deeper. Remember the fertilizer trade. The Gulf region exports massive amounts of ammonia and urea, two critical ingredients for modern farming. Large portions of globally traded fertilizer move through Hormuz, and modern agriculture depends heavily on these products. Without fertilizer, crop yields can drop dramatically. That means less wheat, less rice, less corn, less food overall. At the same time, higher fuel prices make transportation more expensive for farmers. So food becomes harder to grow and more expensive to deliver. This is how an energy crisis slowly transforms into a food crisis. And once food inflation begins, social pressure rises fast. History has shown that food shortages and rising prices can trigger protests, instability, and political unrest in many countries, because people can tolerate expensive luxury goods, but they cannot ignore rising food prices forever. Why shipping companies fear Hormuz? Shipping companies hate uncertainty, and Hormuz creates enormous uncertainty during conflicts. Even if ships are not directly attacked, the risks alone can be enough to disrupt global trade. Insurance companies may increase premiums dramatically. Some crews may refuse dangerous routes. Shipping firms may reroute vessels around longer paths, and every extra day at sea costs money, huge money: fuel, crew wages, delays, port fees, lost contracts. And supply chain disruption spreads like falling dominoes. One delayed shipment can affect factories thousands of miles away. One blocked tanker can affect energy markets across continents. This is why logistics experts pay such close attention to choke points, because the global economy depends on reliability. And reliability disappears when ships start fearing the route itself. The military pressure cooker. The danger around Hormuz is not only economic, it is military. The geography of the strait makes it extremely difficult to secure completely. Narrow waters, nearby coastlines, missiles, drones, and naval mines create a dangerous environment for commercial shipping. Even powerful navies face challenges protecting every vessel. And modern conflicts are no longer just about giant battleships. Small drones can threaten billion-dollar infrastructure. Fast attack boats can harass tankers. Cyber attacks can disrupt ports and shipping systems. And misinformation online can spread panic faster than ships can move. That means modern logistics warfare is not simply about destroying ships. Sometimes it is about creating fear, because fear alone can slow trade, and slowing trade can damage economies without firing a single massive missile. The bigger warning. The Hormuz crisis reveals something bigger about the modern world. Globalization created incredible efficiency, but it also created dangerous dependence. The world built supply chains that rely on stability, speed, and open trade routes. And when one small choke point becomes unstable, the effects spread globally. One narrow waterway can suddenly affect fuel prices in Europe, food prices in Africa, factory production in Asia, airline tickets in America, and grocery bills almost everywhere. That is the hidden weakness of the modern economy. Everything is connected, and connected systems can become fragile during crises. The Strait of Hormuz may look small on a map, but it is one of the world's most important trade routes. Massive amounts of oil, gas, and fertilizer pass through this narrow waterway every day. If it gets blocked, the effects would spread across global shipping, fuel prices, food supplies, and entire economies within days. Modern civilization depends on constant movement, and Hormuz is one of its biggest choke points. That is what makes this region so dangerous during global tensions. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more deep dives into the hidden systems shaping our world. See you in the next one.